So Miguel Sanó was back playing third base in a spring training game yesterday, and I feel like we've seen this movie before, haven't we? What's up? This is Tom Fromling from Twins Daily. Thanks for clicking on this video. Let's talk about Miguel Sanó. Let's talk about the infield. Let's talk about the Twins' defensive philosophy, because that's my question right now among all this. Miguel Sanó may be playing a few games at third base. Maybe not a big deal. I'm wondering, what is the organizational philosophy about defense? Because this creates some questions for me. So like I said, Miguel Sanó, he started at third base in a spring game. I was shocked by that. I didn't think that was going to be on the table, even with Josh Donaldson's injury concerns. Of course, I think they're going to get him a lot of days off. So there will be playing time at third base, but Luis Arraez is a man without a starting position right now. So my assumption was that any kind of days off that Donaldson was getting, or any time he would missed, Arraez would get the bulk of that playing time. So there really wouldn't be much of a concern about who else would go there. Now, if we play that game of, what if Luis Arraez gets hurt, we're going into kind of disaster mode at that point. But I just didn't really think that Miguel Sanó playing third again was going to be on the table, I'm going to kind of throw Jorge Polanco into this conversation too, because both those guys, we saw them play on the left side of the infield for years. We saw them make a lot of good plays. It's not like they're completely, absolutely unusable over there. But they're below average for major leaguers. Certainly not ideal defensively to have both those guys on the left side of the infield. Certainly can see why they'd want to move them off of those positions and over to the right side of the infield. But if you're going to take the stance of there aren't that many defensive chances in the infield per game these days. Along with a lot of home runs, strikeouts, and walks, no hitter in baseball is trying to hit the ball on the ground right now. Everybody is trying to hit the ball in the air. So that creates, even the balls in play that we have, which are down, are usually going to be in the air more often than not. So if you want to take the organizational stance that infield defense isn't all that important, and you're going to be willing to sacrifice some defense in exchange for hopefully some higher offensive potential, I can get behind that, to be honest. That's not maybe ideal. Not everybody's going to be a two-way player, great on offense and defense. So if you're willing to sacrifice that one side for the other, I can get behind that, especially nowadays with the way things are. But the thing that sort of throws in the face of that is they signed Andrelton Simmons. So clearly that's not your philosophy. If you're going out and signing Andrelton Simmons to be your shortstop and displacing Luis Arraez in the process, putting Polanco to second and creating a situation where Arraez doesn't have a regular job, clearly you are emphasizing defense. So I don't, and again, this is a thing where, Miguel Sanó is not going to be playing a lot of third base. So it's kind of, again, I'm kind of looking at the overall philosophy of the organization and trying to pick at what's going on here. And that's what confuses me. If you prioritize getting Simmons, a quality, maybe the best defensive shortstop in baseball, who has very limited offensive upside. It's not that he's a complete, easy out in your lineup. He is going to be below average more than likely, but he has some offensive firepower. Spinning this back to Polanco, I know a lot of people fixate on that error he committed in the postseason. Yeah, again, he's not an ideal defensive shortstop. He's not, maybe at this point, he's not exactly an ideal defensive second baseman either. That's another conversation. But, that if the Twins shifted their mentality because of that postseason error, that loss, to say, hey, this is enough, we need a better defensive shortstop, I would say you scored 2 runs in the postseason last year. So if there's any kind of I wouldn't suggest that it's a good idea to try to take lessons on team building away from a 3-game series regardless. But if there's any sort of lesson about the postseason exit from 2020, it's that you scored 2 runs in 2 games. You're not going to win. You're not going to win very often scoring 2 runs. So if the Twins were fixated on that, I would say the lesson there is, sacrifice even more defensively so you can score some more runs. So I don't know. I don't get the logic behind what's going on here. Obviously, Rocco Baldelli is sort of the ultimate. It's almost paranoia in how deep he likes to think in terms of like, worst case scenarios. We want preparation, and he rests everybody a lot, which has been a great formula for the regular season. There's no denying his track record so far. Team's been excellent. He's getting the most out of Nelson Cruz, which is like given his age, remarkable. So you can't really, I'm not trying to question that rotational philosophy that he's had has worked, but I think this may be taking it a bit far. And to expect Sanó, he still needs to round some things out at first base. So it's not like, he couldn't really use any more time at first base. No, he needs reps at first base still in spring. So it's for him to be swinging over to third, he's not really even that good at these two positions. So expecting him to try to keep up to pace at both of them and playing both of them, I just think you're asking for a lot, unfortunately. And I wish that wasn't the case, but he has things he needs to work on at first base. That's where he's going to be primarily. So I would like to see him get as many reps as possible there before screwing around with him, playing third. Hopefully we forget all about this. Miguel Sanó never needs to see third base during the regular season. And this is behind us, basically. And Donaldson stays healthy. Arise plays over there. He looks great. I don't know. So again, thanks for checking this out. This has been Tom. For more Twins Talk here on YouTube, please consider subscribing. We'll talk again soon.